Hello and welcome. At least 970 million people globally of the world's roughly 8 billion citizens suffer from some kind of mental illness, which can be from a psychological perspective or drug abuse. One of the key universities in the world today looking at the psychological mental issues from a psychological point of view affecting our world is a Chengdu Normal University in China, whose senior fellow in political psychology joins me today as guest on my program. Dr. Timothy Tamunang, welcome to our program on CRTV.
Thank you, Mr. Charles Ibone.
You just listened to the figure I gave. Roughly 970 million people worldwide have some kind of psychological mental imbalance. What explains that?
You know, today, the challenges today are enormous. We are facing challenges that are coming from all sorts of human activities. First, we have the development of new technologies. We have conflicts. We have social challenges. These are just few. If we take the case of Cameroon, which we know we have been in a crisis for about 5 years ongoing, it's a whole lot on the population, and it is affecting especially our young population. And we have to look into this population and prepare, if we are to prepare the future of this country for tomorrow.
The problem of psychological balance is a key one worldwide that the Chengdu Normal University established a laboratory to look at this keenly. What actually do you do at the laboratory?
In our laboratory, we are specialized in almost every aspect of mental health and psychological patterns. What we do is we actually investigate. We get into schools, especially the elementary schools and secondary schools, which are the basis of the formation of every country. Therefore, if we allow this population to grow with some kind of mental issues, therefore, we are plunging the country into a whole difficulty. So what we do is we actually get into this into primary and secondary schools, investigate how investigate with the have talks with the head teachers, the classroom teachers, the school counselors. Then from there we move on to carry out surveys directly with the children. Thereby we can bring out how they feel, their emotional states, depression, anxiety, the relationships. We have so many of these patterns. We have so many deficiencies that we can bring out of this.
From your operational center in China, what have you noticed, especially when you do the research and the feedback you get and the analysis you do, when you go to the various schools, not only in China, but in the countries that you operate and you are carrying the research work, what do you see as the key factors that are responsible for some of the psychological imbalances that you just cited, depression and whatsoever?
The main issue starts at home.
Okay.
The main issue starts at home. When you find in a family setup,
okay,
when you find a home whereby the parents are in a marital conflict, the children are bound to be having all sorts of psychological disorders. Disorders. And these psychological disorders affect their morals, they affect their school performances, they affect their relationships with their peers, they affect even, they go as far as bullying others, they go as far as even thinking of self-suicide. Yeah, intentional self-suicide. For example, if we want to relate some of these to our country, sometimes while over there, I tried to follow up some developments back home here, and I found
like the femicides.
Yeah, I noticed students going as far as stabbing their teachers
and their
exactly, and they call it classmates. These are all issues, familiar issues that grow. These are patterns that the child has been growing with from childhood, right from the elementary, and growing with this.
The Chengdu Normal University in China,
exactly.
Established since 1949, is one of the oldest universities
exactly.
in the country. Your laboratory has been existing for some years now to look at some of the societal issues plaguing the world as China's contribution to humanity for a more stable society.
Exactly.
In how many countries do you operate already?
And
how do you function?
We are currently in 4 countries, and I think the 5 countries, we have the United States, Germany, South Korea, Ethiopia, and I'm looking forward that Cameroon will be the next to join our laboratory. Yeah.
You did, of course, political psychology. How do you impute that with normal psychology to see how societies function? What is the intention of the Chinese society today in focusing in such areas of studies? And how did that help you people elaborate the COVID policy in China in particular, because it was more of a psychological issue?
That's a very interesting question. You know, I studied international relations.
Yeah.
And I happened to get my job in a psychological lab, and I was interested to deviate a little bit into political.
Well, I understand that you are Cameroonian, so you can switch in from French to English. That is not a crime.
So tilt a little bit into political psychology. Now into your question. You know, China for some time, for a decade now, has been promoting the Belt and Road Initiative, and it was at the initial stage, it was just an infrastructural ambition plan, but with time,
to construct roads, build bridges,
and Cameroon
hospitals,
has been
and other physical infrastructure like sport complexes.
As time went on, they also realized that to achieve infrastructure, we need the stable mental health of the population to manage these things, to improve, to build a society, a more stable society. Therefore, the Belt and Road Initiative has moved not just infrastructure, to incorporate all activities that include human. Now, for political psychologists that I am, I actually look at how decisions, how people think, how people come to make decisions. You know, you can judge somebody from the decisions they make. If you are a leader, you have advisors, you have collaborators. Do the decisions you take depend solely on you? Do they come from others? Do they involve an assembly, or let me say the parliamentarian? Where do these decisions, and how do these ideas, when these ideas come, the mechanism in your...
Hang on, you spent roughly 9 years in South Korea, which is not quite from China.
Sure.
And for plus 5 years now, you have been in China. For somebody of the African descent, when you live in an Asian community, what actually defines their psychological perception of the African market?
I think
that's quite challenging, right?
That is really, really challenging. The African, for the Koreans, it is part of it is the let me put it, the geographical location, and secondly, I can think about the lack of natural resources. Yeah. So What they have for South Korea, they have the technology.
A knowledge-based economy.
Exactly.
So
they have the technology.
Everything is their mental calculus.
Exactly. And they
balance with what they don't have naturally.
They turn to Africa.
Okay.
For the Chinese, it is some sort of a very strong spirit, what they call a Chinese dream. The Chinese want to achieve their dreams, but achieving these dreams in a way that it's balanced. You know, the Chinese always talked about the win-win cooperation. So when they are coming to us, we have to think.
One of the oldest expressions used in humanity comes from China. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with this.
Exactly. So they always
that should be Chiang Kai-shek in 1949, right?
Wow.
Okay.
That's so.
I did Chinese history. What does the laboratory intends to do in Africa specifically to analyze the kind of relationship between China and Africa in particular, as we come to the end of the interview?
From the context of the Belt and Road Initiative, we want to establish a cooperation with Cameroon, whereby we can work with psychological institutions or scientific institutions. We are particularly focused with the Ministry of Scientific and Technical Research, Ministry of Higher Education, Ministry of Secondary and Basic Education, and so that we can establish a psychologically based laboratory that can cater for our population, our young population. This is our main this is one of my main goals, and I'm going to try to see how we can attain this within a shortest possible period. Is
that your own personal contribution as a member of the diaspora to the development of the country?
Exactly. When we go out, we get these ideas. We want to come back and contribute. We want to come back and solve the problems we have in our country. You know, there is so much around our country. We have issues, they are hidden issues that only psychologists can actually bring out. For example, there is deep-seated issues of bias within our country. Issues of tribes, and you hear sometimes we talk of Anglophones. But when you just say an Anglophone to somebody, mentally, you don't know what you have already done to that person. You've already classified that person.
If you say Francophone.
You say Francophone. You've already classified the person. The person already sees himself as, I am discriminated. All those things, they affect our country and the growth of this country. We have to, those are implicit, we call them implicit psychological issues. You cannot directly find them because nobody actually points them out with the intention of harming. But when you say that to somebody, immediately that person in the mind, in the brain, starts thinking,
feels he has been put in a particular box.
You have already classified him or her.
Okay.
So there are issues that we can solve and bring our country, make our countries, give our country the unity that we have been searching for all this while.
And with that, we conclude the interview. Dr. Timothy Tamunang from the Chengdu Normal University in China. Thank you very much indeed for being part of us today.
Thank you, Mr. Charles, for welcoming me on your program.
You're welcome. Yeah. Marcellus Tezo Mbamek, thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thank you very much, Charles.
It's 3 years on now, ever since the global education system started. What actually do you do?
Yes, Global Education Systems is a network of universities that we represent around the globe. We represent over 2,000 universities that we assist them in admission processes for those students from Africa who want to study into those partner universities. That is actually what we do.
Those partner universities, amongst them, do you have some of the touring universities in the world, and how do you do the assistance in particular?
Yes, as a university representative, we are trained to assist them in the admission processes. We have direct access to their admission portals. So the students that come to us, we are able to make decisions on admission based on the guidelines that they have provided to us.
Guidelines from universities, like you said, a good number of them. Why in Africa? And in how many countries do you operate in particular?
Yes, we are headquartered here in Yaoundé, and we have country offices in Nigeria, Burkina Faso, Ghana, and Rwanda. So we assist students in these African countries who want to study into countries like the USA, Canada, United Kingdom, Australia, France, Switzerland, India, Malaysia, and so on.
What kind of documents do they need to provide to you for them to have direct access and secured a recruitment or placement into those universities, which is quite away from a form of illegal immigration that some of them are involved into?
Yes, when it comes to academic, so most often the documents that the students have to submit will be their previous academic documents, like their certificates, their transcripts, their birth certificates, their passports, sometimes statements of purposes and bank statements and so on.
Those documents are presented. How do you ensure that the students get access to the universities? Do they pay you? And what are the benchmarks for your credibility?
Yes, as I said earlier, we are a well-established institution, headquartered here in Yaoundé with 5 country operations, and such an institution by itself speaks of itself when it comes to credibility. So the documents that the students have to submit to us are the kind of documents that we know that will be needed in this process.
How do you ensure that they don't present to you forged documents like their university results in a world where producing what is fake might be quite challenging?
Yes, we are trained in this area. We have staffs that have been trained. Let's say, for example, if students were submitting their advanced level certificates, the advanced level GC results are always available online. We have to go to check the year that the student wrote the exam to be sure that it's genuine. If it comes to university transcript, we request the schools to send the transcript directly to us, to our admissions department. So it doesn't come from the student. The student might submit to us a copy of what they have, but we usually ask them to ask the schools to submit the originals directly to us.
Over the past 3 years, how many documents have you processed already, and how many of them have been registered, and possibly how many of them can you consider today to be success stories?
Yes, over the past 3 years, we've done what we call one-on-one counseling with more than 25,000 students in these 5 different countries that we operate, and we've had about 1,500 students who have successfully traveled out of the continent and pursuing their further education in those countries that we represent.
One question that everybody would like to know is, what feedback do you get from those who have had their admissions accepted, established, studying over there, and what fields in particular did they study in according to your database?
Yes, all fields are available for study depending on what the individual wants. But for global education, we are specifically encouraging students to travel overseas for science and engineering, because we know that the education system we have here is good, but we are a little bit lacking in science and engineering, especially in areas where what we call the new age technology. So we are encouraging students to leave the continent for science and engineering programs. So most of our students are in science and engineering, and we are having a very good feedback. Like now we have 4 Cameroonian students who are doing space engineering in India that left through global education systems. And the feedback I'm getting is so positive. Most of them, they are just in their 2nd year in the aerospace engineering fields, but they have been solicited by certain African aerospace engineering programs that once they graduate, they will be employed in those aerospace programs.
How much time does it take for somebody to go through your process? Does it depend from country to country or from region to region?
It depends from country to country. There is no, every country has its own specific time. Let's say if you approach Globus and you wanted to study in India, we could have that student travel out of the country within the next 3 to 4 days from the time the student presented himself to us. But if you were going to the United States, maybe within the next 1 to 2 months, because the appointment system for the U.S. Embassy, sometimes you cannot get it less than a month or so. So it depends on the country that you are talking about.
Do you network with the embassies to ensure that this is not part of an illegal immigration process? Are you part of the embassy systems that they know that, okay, we are dealing with an established authority?
Yes, we don't necessarily need to partner with the embassy. The embassy by itself is an independent institution of a specific country. But we go to them to approach them to give us clear guidelines on how they want their documents to be processed. So when we are working with the students, we make sure we give those specific guidelines as requested by those embassies. But most embassies, like the Indian embassies, they know us very well that we are here in Cameroon and representing students who want to study in their country.
And how does someone get in contact with you?
Yes, we are headquartered here in Yaoundé at the Commercial Bank building at Carrefour Intendance here in Yaoundé. But besides that, you can just go online, search Globus Education Systems. All our social media handles are active. You will be able to see numbers there that you can call. Someone will be able to respond to you on WhatsApp. If you want to chat with the person on any social media handle, someone will be there to respond to you.
In the roughly 25,000 students you have processed or received documents, like you said.
I said we had counseled about 25,000 students, meaning that we try to guide them and counsel them on the various opportunities that are available. But those that have been successful, they are just like 1,500. And within this period, yes, we have been able to sort out documents that are fake. And we have told them, please, we cannot go ahead with these documents because we believe it is not genuine. And they have been able to back out.
Why will you encourage somebody to study abroad and not in here, especially at the postgraduate level?
Yes, as I said earlier, it is not like our education system is not good. Our governments have invested a lot in education, specifically Cameroon. The government is making a lot of efforts.
Yourself, you are a graduate of that
yes,
system.
Yes, so the system is well structured, but I would mostly encourage students to travel out of this country when it comes to science and engineering, because these are areas where we are lacking. We need seasoned engineers. We don't want to hear that buildings have collapsed in the country, bridges have collapsed in the country. So we want to get students to go out there and study something that when they come back, our economy will be taken to another level.
Finally, what problem does Globus education system intend to solve? And how do you position yourself in the next 3 to 4 years?
Yes, the problem that we intend to solve in this country is the issue that there are a lot of fake people coming out there saying that they can assist people to study out of the country. In the next 1 year or so, we intend to solve this problem by working with the various ministries that are concerned, so that we come out with regulations that can regulate this sector, because as we speak now, it's not regulated. Everybody poses for a university representative, an agent, and so on. But as you can see, we are well structured with over 60 staffs working for Globus education system. And you cannot invest all of these human resource and everything, and people are out there scamming parents. Parents come to me all the time complaining that they have scammed them. They have taken money, millions from them, and they are not able to trace where these people are coming from. So this problem, we intend to solve it by working with the various ministries to make sure that there's a regulation. And within the next 3 years, we want to be the leader in Africa when it comes to international student recruitment and job placements, because we are now moving from just admission into job placement, because these students, when they graduate from the universities, they also have to start making money to be able to support their parents. So we are now also working with our partners to see how, when the students come back, where can we place them so they can get jobs that will be able to assist them to take care of the family. And this package, we are unveiling it very shortly.
In the universities that you just mentioned, the big names, are they there? Yale, Harvard, Cambridge, and the list can go on. Rhodes University in South Africa.
Yes, no, I don't represent those very big universities, because if you look at the name Global Education System, our motto is affordable education for all. We are looking at students studying abroad at affordable prices. So we know Yale is a very good university, the Harvard and so on, but most of our people cannot afford. So we are trying to source out universities that our students can be able to afford, most especially scholarships, where the students can even study out for free. So we have a lot of scholarship programs that we are running for Asia, the United States and Canada.
And with that, we conclude the interview. The Managing Director of Global Education Systems, Marcellus Tezu Mbamek. Thank you very much indeed for being my guest.
Thank you very much, Charles, for coming.
You're welcome.